Hello and welcome to this tour of the Dalles High School. This tour was taken at the end of July in 2023 while school was closed for the summer. What you'll find is an unedited, mostly unedited video. It's about an hour long, and the goal of that was to keep it as transparent and kind of unedited as possible. I've skipped through some of the bits that were boring, bits for traveling and moving around, and you'll see those bits come and go. But the goal is just, as I say, just to give you a full kind of unedited picture of what of our tour of the high school that we went with the other medias in the Dalles. Yeah, hope you enjoy it, and I hope you find it insightful and interesting. And look forward to any comments or questions that comes with the release. Okay, thank you so much.
After lunch and coming back and kind of, so it's cutting into the academic component as well, and then kids coming kind of filtering, mingling back into campus whenever. So that is a hard thing. There is no designated student parking. We do have a staff and parking lot over on that west side, but we do have very limited parking. And that's another just space constraint. We only have just over 7 acres right here on this campus. So we do get a lot of, oh, why couldn't you just rebuild or expand on this lot? Well, one, it would cost almost the same to expand and fix all the program and operational issues that we have on this campus, and it wouldn't solve things like athletic fields on site. It wouldn't fix parking. It wouldn't fix all these other issues that we have with the site itself. I will say it's an absolutely beautiful building. I know there's a lot of nostalgia behind it, and that's one of the things that we've taken into consideration as we move forward, like the potential use of what this building could be and still honoring it and using it as a facility in some way for the district, because it is beautiful and we don't want to just, tear it down. Okay, on that note, I will go ahead and get started. We're going to go up and around, so I hope everybody's got comfortable shoes on. Okay.
How fast do you have to walk to get to your classes on time?
Pretty fast, especially if you have a locker down in the basement area and your first class is, say, in a health room up in Kurt's gym.
Yeah.
It is hard even for an able-bodied student to get to class.
What's the passing period time?
I believe it's 5 minutes. We'll check with Kurt. He's the expert on the scheduling. All right, so this is our bus drop-off, loading and unloading zone. And then, as you can see, we have stairs here, but we also have our ADA ramp over here. I know that was a hot topic for many.
Hey, Kat. Hello.
This is Kurt Evans. Has everybody met Kurt before? So Kurt's the principal here at the Dalles High School. Kurt, do you want to introduce yourself? Say hello.
I'm Kurt,
Well,
principal here at the Dalles High School. Thanks for coming out. So, we'll do our best to show you all the highs and lows of the building. So I've been here with the high school almost 20 years. That's I'm starting my 6th year as a principal. So.
Okay.
Yep.
Kurt, Kelsey had a quick question about passing time. How long do they have minute-wise passing? 5 okay.
5 minutes. Yep.
All right, so we'll go ahead and head in. Probably the newest feature at the high school is actually this gazebo. So this was built with some ESSER funding, which was emergency relief dollars during COVID, to be able to expand some outdoor seating and have an opportunity for students to stay on campus and have somewhere to sit, because we have such limited space in our chat and chew, our cafeteria. It is beautiful, isn't it? So on the topic of ADA, so any students that need wheelchair access would have to enter the school through this side. And then we have an elevator that goes up to the 2nd floor. So if students have to get from, say, a classroom on the far west side to up above, they would have to come all the way out, back and around, up the wheelchair ramp and through the elevator to get to their class.
Really a
Lift. So while you guys are more than welcome to take a peek in there. So while it is ADA compliant, it doesn't mean it's easy.
We're going to demonstrate this for.
What's that?
We're going to demonstrate.
Want me to share?
Yeah.
Really speedy.
It's really fast, yeah.
that 5-minute passing time could be a little slow with this.
And I
You
hear
more
a
than 5
lot
minutes if you have to use the
anecdotally
elevator.
that if any students have any
Takes 5
sort
minutes to go one
of
brush.
need or accommodation, even like pretty basic stuff, they rely a lot on each other for help, just opening doors and getting around and carrying books up and down to classrooms. So it really becomes more than just like the student affected. It's usually like their whole friend group that then are affected because they're essentially caregivers for their friend.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah.
All right, we'll go down here. I'd say out of the heat, but I would be lying. So
So I don't know why it's so bright coming out.
How easy is it to get that elevator fixed if you have an issue?
To get it fixed?
Yeah, like does it take 3-4 months to get somebody out here to work at it?
I don't know. I don't recall it ever breaking. It's not the speediest elevator, though, that's for sure. But you have to go outside to access it.
oh, Kurt's got on my door.
Yeah, and I apologize. I left my main set of keys at home, so I'm like winging it with multiple sets here. So
I can't imagine the elevator gets that much use anyway, does it?
You know, we usually have a couple students a year who utilize it. We don't have a lot of students that are truly wheelchair bound that would need to use it, but we have students that'll be on crutches or say have a boot that may use it during the year. And then they would check out a key in the office to be able to utilize the lift.
yeah, we had we shared this before. We had an OCR visit audit years ago. I was vice principal at the time, I think I was. And their comment to me was she'd never seen anything this bad from a standpoint of accessibility, and reusable state, and she was concerned that I have to report this to my federal level and all this kind of stuff. I'm like, well, this will be interesting because it's so. I mean, there's nothing that is even remotely compliant with modern ADA accessibility.
Even the ramp that we just came down, while it is
Yeah.
accessible, the grade isn't necessarily correct. So that would be something that's, yes, it's accessible, but is it great? No.
Our graduation stage, it's ADA compliant.
Yes,
It's
we
a
did-
12 to 1.
we
Big,
did
long ramp. that
Just
comes
get
up.
a new graduation stage.
So we got a new stage and ramp this year. So, but every piece of this building, if we, generally the overall plan is that new high school is built, this would be multi-purpose building, district office and other things. And you could cut this up and make sections fairly ADA compliant. If you were, let's say we had some small program or school in maybe lower level West Wing, and that was the entire space that those students maybe went to school. That would be completely fine because they're all confined to right in that area. Or maybe we had an office space, right here. Maybe this was just an office space for, district office or something. So in sections it could work, but holistically as a school, it just doesn't. There's just no way. And like Stephanie was saying, the most common thing, we do have a student that is wheelchair bound in SLC, but he goes to pretty much one classroom, and that's all the way down at the end of the hall there. But yeah, one-on-one aid has to. And so if you came in that door in a wheelchair and you wanted to get to the main office, you would have to go in through the auditorium. That's the ramp. You go through the auditorium and then out. That's the way you get down for those stairs. Okay? You want to go upstairs in this main building, again, elevator, you go outside, you go up that. So anyway, there just is nothing about this building that is even remotely close to being, we have classroom spaces, the gymnasium is not accessible, the band room is not accessible. If we had a student that needed to take that class or wanted to take those classes that was confined to wheelchair, we'd have to move those classes to a space that they could access.
Which you can imagine is not an easy thing to do, to just pick up and completely move a classroom.
So I missed your point there. You're saying you have to go through the auditorium to get down?
Yeah, like
So
if
to-
you're in a wheelchair right now and you needed to get to the main office, which is right down there.
'Cause there's stairs.
You own their stairs. So the route that you would take is you'd go through the auditorium and out the lower door in the auditorium, and that's how you would have to get to the main office. Yeah.
So why don't we go down that way? You guys can take a peek at the auditorium as we walk
Sure.
through.
Yeah, it really is. I've always loved the auditorium here, and it's a beautiful space. But from a practical, So it's a big, giant open room that stays empty for the majority of the day. We have one small class that comes into this theater on the stage, a few assemblies each year, but generally it's pretty unused space.
How is it acoustically for the band?
What?
How is it acoustically for the band?
You know, I don't know. I'm not a music guy, really. I know they want non-parallel walls. Someone told me that once. So. But it's a nice space. It's almost more of a community resource than a school resource, you know. So, but.
And you can see it needs a lot of love too.
And underneath it, a few years ago, they actually came in. The floor was starting to cave in, so they went underneath. We won't go down there unless you really want to. There's crawl space underneath this floor, and there's all these. I guess it'd be ties that are
Support beams
that are propped up to support this floor. So they're concerned about, you know, having 800 students in here and it collapsing because it's starting to. So. Okay, so
On that note, we'll
yeah.
keep cooking. We got a lot
Keep
to see,
going.
so
Yep. You've done
Feel it's-
hit for musical hit orchestra here. Yeah. Bring it in there.
So then to get down to the main office, to Kurt's point, you would then have to backtrack over to that entrance over there. So this is the senior hallway. Down this way we have the resource center, computer lab, and the library.
Yeah. And then someone had a question, I think, about capacity, right? Yeah, that's a question. So that, it sounds like a simple question, but the square footage of this building is like if you built a new high school with the same square footage, with a modern layout and a modern design. I've been told by architects that you'd be able to fit 1,000 to 1,200 students in this building. This building is fully at capacity. We have one class that's actually up at Columbia Gorge Community College as well. And we cannot fit a single class, we can't fit any more teachers here. If I had another teacher, they would have to share a classroom. There's no more teaching spaces. And the reason is we have all these awkward shaped rooms. So
Like this one.
Like this one, for example. So that's an office over there. It is an enormous office, but it's too small to be a classroom. And we have a lot of spaces like that, probably 3 or 4 spaces like that over there. This over here.
We can walk through it, the attic.
Yeah, this over here was a classroom, but it's really too small. There's about 22 kids in here.
So come look at this space. He's saying we can fit 22 students in. So
So we have used this in a classroom, but you really, you know, we could use this again if we had to, but it's a space that's just too small. We use this for our Aspire room. So this space, that office, and the whole career center, if you took all that square footage and put it together, you could build, you know, you would have probably 3 classrooms, you know, up to 90 student capacity if they were actually laid out in squares or rectangles like a traditional classroom. But because they're so awkwardly sized,
we have a lot of nooks and crannies.
yeah, a lot of nooks and crannies, and we have 2 people basically that occupy this one here and one in that all day long. So there's a lot of spaces like that that are in this building that make it very, very inefficient from the standpoint of where we can. So.
Square footage wise, the main building has roughly 115,000 square feet. That doesn't include the Kurt's gym or the cafeteria spaces.
It does not?
Does not.
Okay.
Why do spaces like this get so warm? Like, you know?
Why do they get so warm?
Yeah.
Because of the sunshine.
Oh yeah.
And it's facing south.
Nuclear fusion.
Yeah. So there's no, obviously there's no HVAC. Excuse me. There's no HVAC system in this main building. The West Wing kind of has one. It was designed in the 70s, and so it does actually work. We lower that door. It's a fire door that separates the 2 buildings.
Which you'll see here in a
Yeah,
minute.
you'll see that, and that actually separates the West Wing and the main building, and so it does stay, fairly cool down there on that west end. But basically, the temperature on the outside of the building is the temperature on the inside. So we've had obviously we get 90+ degree days in the fall and in the late spring, and that's what the temperature is upstairs in our math and our science rooms. And these small air conditioning units don't really work that well, especially when you have a roof full of kids. And we can't just add more AC units because we don't have the power supply in this building to add AC units. So even if we put mini splits in all the classrooms, we would have to do electrical upgrades as well. So it's just not feasible to do that.
You may remember a few years ago, the summer it was really hot. We actually had the fire door trigger because it was so hot. So the door closed because the heat internally got so hot that
it was a fire.
It thought there was a fire.
It's triggered by heat, and that door drops. Yeah. So, I was just a few weeks ago. I was down in a school building and for a meeting in Central Oregon. And it was a smoky day. There was a fire somewhere, and smoke was blowing in, and you get inside the building, and it's like, oh, this is nice, and you can breathe easy, and it's like, yeah. So it's a smoky day. All the kids just inhale that smoke in this building. So. And
you felt it outside. It's a relatively cool day for a summer in July in the Dalles,
really cool,
and it's pretty stuffy in this room. So you can imagine when the temperatures get up to, 100, 110, how hot it is. And we do follow, heat index guidelines. So we would potentially have to cancel school if the temperatures indoors got to a degree.
We have canceled school because of
Because the smoke was such an issue in the
No,
building?
just because of heat.
The heat.
Yeah,
Did you ever have smoke issues in the building too when we had big
Yeah, we
fires?
have, and I can't remember if we canceled because of smoke.
I kind of remember you did.
We might have.
Because of
But
the
you
air
don't
quality.
Yeah, you didn't have the HVAC to clean
Yeah.
out the air, right?
No way.
The
No.
AQI smoke index levels have really become kind of a hot topic in the last couple of
right.
years, and it's something that we have started to more closely monitor on a district. We actually just installed this summer smoke monitors on all the school buildings. So most of those are live. I think the Dalles High School and Colonel Wright are still yet to go live. But we'll be keeping a closer eye on those when we do have smoke events in the community and judge those levels and whether or not we would potentially have to close school. So anything over 100, I believe it is hard on those with a sensitive system. So if you can think of students or teachers or staff with like asthma, and then upwards of over 150, we would have to look at canceling some programming, especially those outdoors, or moving them to an area with better AQI. All right, we'll head out this door and we'll pop over to the library.
Do you call
Right,
this the
please?
Aspire room or what?
Yeah, Aspire is Lane Towery's Aspire coordinator. She trains volunteers to help students with college planning and application process. So it's good for that. Very good space.
Like Jasmine.
Yes, like Jasmine.
She's getting so much traction.
900
People
square
love
foot
that
space.
story that Kelsey put together.
Yeah, it's a nice one.
Okay, so we touched on HVAC. We
Yep.
touched on ADA accessibility.
Let's head into the library really
touched on
quick.
space and capacity. And so yeah, we're pretty much at there's 800 kids, 42 teachers, 43 teachers really is capacity. That's just pretty much we're there. We'd have to, if we were to go further, we'd have to convert some other non-traditional, non-conventional spaces.
We don't have a lot of gathering spaces in this school as well, just organically. We can head into the library. This is one, but you'll see, especially during like the lunch period, a lot of times our teachers will just be in their classroom during lunch eating, and students will come in, they'll see a door open and they'll just come in and eat lunch in a classroom, and those are kind of the gathering spaces. So instead of like a formal cafeteria or meeting somewhere with their friends, they're literally going to classrooms for lunch.
Yep.
We'll head into the library. Again, this is not an ADA entrance, so if someone that needed ADA accessibility needed to get into the library, they'd actually have to go down to that hallway on that far end and loop back to the ramp over here. And it's actually cooler in here.
It's on the north side.
On the cool side of the building.
So this is probably one of the biggest, if not the biggest, communal space in the main building. This is our library. As you can see, she needs a lot of love as well. The ADA, so the ramp is over there on that west end.
Yeah, one thing we don't have is like when we have parent meetings and we have quite a few during the year. We'll get maybe an audience of 80 to 100 people. We don't have a great space for like 100 people. like the middle school has the cafeteria. And that's great for like 100 people. So you go put 100 people in the auditorium and it feels empty, and you put 100 people in here and you can't really.
And it's hard to meet, like in an auditorium setting, you can't really meet. You don't have like that same face to, it's like a presentation. So if you want a space to like meet and work at, like so during like our teacher back to school trainings that'll be in this, it's very hard to get even just our teachers all in one space. It's pretty crammed in here. And then it's pretty loud because we're all closed in one very small area. All right, we'll go out and around and we'll head upstairs.
What's up with the duct tape down there?
We change it out every year.
Oh yeah?
Put new
This
designs.
is the,
in.
you know, we want to stay in fashion, so we switch it out. Got unicorns.
It's great duct tape, yeah.
Just beautiful duct tape.
I love it.
So the upstairs, this is primarily our math and science. So we'll come on down to this far end and we'll take a look in one of the science rooms down here. Again, we're just making you guys kind of hoof it the whole length of the school just to kind of get an idea of what these classes have to, kids go through to get to class.
5 minutes, eh?
5 minutes.
5 minutes? It's been 5 minutes since we were alive.
Upstairs, this is our counseling office area as well. Up here, and entrances to the balcony of the auditorium. While Kurt's struggling with the keys, I'll point out the fact that we have a lot of keys to this building, which in itself is a safety and security issue. If there were an event and an administrator or an emergency responder had to key in or get into a room to get access, it's very hard to identify which key goes to which room. If you take, for example, some of the newer schools that have like the card readers, we have, how many keys do you think we have in this building, Kurt? Enough to weigh Kurt down.
Yeah, let me go grab one of these.
You're
guys
fine.
down here.
We do practice. We have yearly drills with our first responders as well. So we invite, at the beginning of the year, we have our police do a walkthrough and they kind of just do kind of a comprehensive overview of like what we could change or problems that they see, do some run-throughs of like what the spaces is. So if they have a new officer that they can familiarize themselves with the school just in case there is an event that they can come in and be familiar with the building. And then during our lockdown drills, the officers will actually have to practice keying into different rooms and spaces in the high school as well. So they get that experience and be able to see just how long it is to get all the different rooms and keys identified to unlock and clear all the rooms.
How long does it take?
It's a great question. So this year, while we did our elementary schools and they keyed into all of those, the high school, we chose to only practice keying in on half because we were concerned that a lockdown of over a certain time would be too stressful on a lot of the staff and students. So we chose to only key into this portion of the main building, and then we waited for the all call and we did a verbal release of all the students on the Whittier wing side to then gather into the auditorium.
Check 45 minutes?
It took probably about an hour, I would say, and that was definitely a lot longer than our elementary schools.
Okay.
All right, you guys
That's
can
very fast.
come on in.
So
Proper tool.
So our science classrooms up here are set up. They have lab stations, which in itself is limiting to the amount of students that we could have into each classroom. It also limits us on what rooms we're able to utilize as science classrooms. So if we needed to expand and to be able to offer more science classes or have an additional science teacher, that would be very hard to accommodate. I wanted to point out this room just because one of the major things that we have going on with the building and the repairs needed, in addition to the electrical and mechanical, is the roof. So if you take a look above, you can see that we have a significant roof leaks, some damage to the infrastructure, and that goes beyond just putting shingles on a building. And when we talk about a building this large, those costs can really add up. So this is just one indicator of kind of what you're seeing in a lot of these upstairs classrooms.
Is Is this just isolated to this section of the building, or is it spread
No,
throughout
if
the
you,
whole
I mean,
stairs?
it's even, there is water damage you can see in a lot of the downstairs areas too. It just kind of depends on which room you're in and where it's leaking. If we go back down through the resource center, I noted on my last trip through that there was some water damage in that in that room as well. So I would say that it's not limited to this upstairs.
Have you had people come out and take a look at the roof? Do you have an idea?
Kurt, do you want to talk about the roof?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's just, it just has to be, I mean, it's a 7-figure project, that alone. You know, the
7 figures.
Oh, yeah. The deferred maintenance on this building is 8, plus 8 figures. It's 10 million plus. Stuff like, dealing with keys and fixing the roof and windows. I mean, it's et cetera, et cetera. It is just on and on and on. And so, because the, sort of proverbial can has been kicked down the road for so many years, and without any kind of revenue stream, you're limited to the state school fund, and that, doesn't go beyond, paying your staff and doing general upkeep, the stuff that you're supposed to do, assuming things are operational. But yeah, the roof works great as long as it doesn't rain or snow. It's kind of what I say about it. There's probably, at least half a dozen like that. The one in the library got so bad that we had to cut the floor out and replace the floor because it had got, for so many years it had gone down and started rotting the floor out.
Yeah, it's really an infrastructure issue instead of just a cosmetic or just a basic roof.
Yeah, the thing that I kind of worry about at some point with this building is just more or less, how long can we even occupy it? You know what I mean? I mean, how long? I mean, how many more of that has to happen before you say, look, we can't even be in here anymore? I mean, I don't know, and that's what worries me more than anything else. Aside from all the other issues, like we just simply are getting to a point where like you just can't use it. I mean, at some point, if your house is in disrepair, you say, okay, we can't live here anymore. It's falling apart. So, anyway,
Did something similar happen with the middle school? Like to get through to the next ones, like
the middle school was condemned. Yeah, a long time ago. Yeah, in the 90s, the original Dalles Middle School was condemned. There was, gaps in the wall because that was that slide there, that water underneath the soil kind of shifted everything on the hillside. So that's what happened. And so for a couple of years, kids went from it was used to be a grocery store down by 12th and Dry Hollow, and so they would go to school in the grocery store, and then the old Joseph G. Wilson building, and then the middle school. So that's where they went to school for a little while.
And that building, 12th and Dry Hollow, that is now the next door.
No,
it's the Columbia Hills or Infancy Family Medicine.
Yeah.
The Alpen D-Harts. Thank you. I was going to call it Alpen Rose.
I'm so sorry, what year was this school constructed?
Constructed?
Yeah.
I believe the completion date was 1942. So there was a fire in the early 1940s, actually when they were constructing Kurt's gymnasium. So Kurt's gym is just slightly older because it actually survived the fire. If you haven't seen, there's really great pictures of the actual fire from the old Dalles Chronicle in our archive museum, which is in Wetumpka. So I highly suggest checking those out because they're pretty interesting to look at. But yeah, so early 1940s, kind of during the war, and then it has had some upgrades. So in the 70s, I believe 1973, 1974, they then started the Whittier wing, which is now the CTE wing on that far end, which added some space. And then our cafeteria, we were talking earlier, was actually originally a machine engine shop for the school, and then it became the cafeterias. So it has evolved a little bit and changed shape and form a little bit, but this main building was in the about 1942. So she's a little old.
Because the building is so old, is there any worry with damages that are occurring like this of exposure to hazardous materials?
Yeah. So we do have some hazardous material maintenance plans that our maintenance team have to kind of review. And obviously, anytime there's construction or major renovations, those are things that we have to come in and look at. But things like lead or, what other contaminants may be in the area. Yeah, those would be a concern. Yeah. I'm not sure if this building has asbestos. I wouldn't put it by it. I know there is asbestos actually down in our HVAC area, which we can take a pop in there. It's just like the lining, back in the insulation days when everything was made out of asbestos. So it would not shock me that there's asbestos in other portions of the building. I'm not a construction person. That's not my, so I couldn't speak for sure, but.
Yeah, the previous maintenance guy checked that there's asbestos in the glue for the underneath tiles. It's the same glue similar glue they use in the carpet as well. And so if there's ripping in the carpet, there's asbestos abatement that has to happen.
Yep.
Which leads us to the pink duct tape, which is great.
All right, we'll go out and.
This room would normally be a little cooler because the teachers first thing in the morning open everything up,
So now we finally made it to the upstairs location of our elevator.
That was a long trip.
It was a long trip.
And that's it. It's just this whole, I don't know, it's so weirdly designed. I just kind of hodgepodge.
Come on down, don't be shy, don't be scared.
This is the band tunnel, call this down here.
The band does it. Oh,
Places for students to just kind of get lost, huh?
Yeah,
Yes, there are.
This is on the patrol route at lunchtime for sure. There's that takes you on the key to that room with me, but that goes back in under the auditorium. There's the old swimming pools over here. It's pretty underwhelming.
It's
just like.
it doesn't live up to the hype.
Yeah.
Do you have a key to the boiler?
I don't think I do.
Okay.
I really don't. We just check one key, and if that doesn't work, then I don't have it.
It's epic in there. It's amazing.
Yeah, I do not have it.
1920s train yard. That smells like one.
Okay, so this is the band room over here, and see all of this is loaded with offices and small rooms. So this room is big enough for a band. Nice and cool. We have a mini split in this room. Yeah, great.
Oh,
Yes.
That's what school
Good
is
to be on
supposed
the
to
ground.
feel
Everybody
like.
wants to take band.
Right?
Notably, there is actually an outdoor access over on that end of the room. However, it is not ADA, it's steps to the outside. You can see it when we go back around.
So there's autos and aviators that you get down here.
They
do
don't.
not.
This
We
is
got-
one of the rooms that we would have to accommodate. We would physically have to move the band location if we had a student that needed that accommodation to take band.
How many students do you know on average per year?
35, 40. It's not huge, but yeah.
Okay.
Nick would like it to be bigger.
He's actually done a great job growing the program.
This is just his office space in here.
I'll let you guys follow Kurt down the scary hallway to the depths of the high school that you never knew existed.
Again, all space you can't use, all square footage.
That's a lot.
Classroom space. More storage over here. And then this is kind of our theater
Hey,
storage.
they must have just shined the floors though.
The other thing too, we lose, it's about 500 gallons of water a day that we lose out of this building. That just disappears. We put a few years ago, put a gauge on because we're like how much water we're taking in and how much we're using, and it's about, it averages about 550 gallons a day. That just disappears somewhere into the abyss of pipes. So.
This just leads back up to the theater as well. So this is the beloved Chat and Chew. If you're not familiar with it, this is our cafeteria.
Oh, chat.
So it holds roughly at any given time 12% of our student population. A lot of times students just forego eating on campus altogether and choose to go off campus to find options. Not that we don't have great food, just that there is, You can see limited seating. It's pretty much just a pass through, so they pick up their lunch and then they leave. So for our entire 850 roughly students, we have 6 tables in our cafeteria.
Yeah. So 800 students fills the whole auditorium in there, balcony and lower section. It fills it full, you know. And so just visually, that's what 800 students looks like. So this is what we have for that. And the problem with this setup is you create a very, very segregated like lunch, because what you have is you have those with, because it's so unattractive to stay here to eat, those that have some means get in a car and leave. Those with a little bit of means maybe will walk to a store, but those that are on free and reduced and rely on this school for meals, they stay. And so it really creates an unhealthy division of the student body during our lunchtime. It really does. The teachers are so gracious that they don't have to, they have a duty-free lunch technically, and they can, close their doors and take a break. But almost all of the teachers just have their doors open at lunchtime, and kids gather in their classrooms and just, help with that and just spend their lunch period in the classroom. And so it's, just appreciate the teachers here greatly.
So you'll note we do have wall units in this main building. However, like Kurt mentioned, they don't keep up, they don't meet the demand, and we don't have the electrical capacity to do anything bigger or better for those staff or students in those buildings, in those classrooms.
Are those in main classrooms?
Those are main classrooms, yep.
So
that would be
the size you would have in maybe a studio apartment.
Yes, yep. So this wall, the upstairs is the math. So that would have been the second story that we came out of the science on the other side. And then below, English theater classroom down here on this level. And then this is the resource center computer lab that we had just came out of. So I'll pop, are we going through this way?
Yeah.
Okay. So I've always found this one to be fascinating. This is actually a separated classroom. So this is not connected to the main building. So students will literally have to walk out this door and into another room to get into their classroom out here.
Yeah, we can't do like this from a security standpoint. We can't do like a singular, like get everybody inside the building, because we have like separate outbuildings. We're similar to like a Southwest United States, Southern California kind of thing where you have a lot more outdoor spaces.
Which is really challenging. We get the question a lot about, why can't we just lock some of the exterior doors to make students or staff come into specific entrances, and we physically can't do that. Otherwise, we would not be able to accommodate the ADA things. We wouldn't be able to get into classrooms
kids
here.
are going in and out, getting into this, going to the gym because of all these outbuildings, and so we have to leave a lot, probably half a dozen exterior doors unlocked. We probably have 25, 30, but we have at least that many exterior doors. So to secure all of those is just not, it's not feasible. So we do during the lockdown, we secure them all, but like day-to-day operational, we can't just simply lock a door and say, okay, everybody's inside and
go in the main entrance or
go in the main entrance and we'll buzz you in like you can at the middle school. It's like,
So we're now entering the Whittier wing. So this is the new section, new to us in 1973-ish, the newer part of the high school. And this is the other side of the fire door.
And we have that down intentionally because of summer school. Because when you close it, the AC works a little better over here. So we have summer school over here in this, and so it kind of just helped. And we found that out because of when it dropped from the heat a couple years ago. It was like 116 or something like that. And all of a sudden it's like, wow, it's cooler over here. So I'm like, okay, I'll leave it closed.
And what is this wing called again?
So this is the Whittier wing.
Yeah, there used to be a school over here. This school, the one that was torn down in the 70s, was older than that one. I think it was built in the 1800s, called Whittier School. and they play football games out there on the Amazon field and everything. And so that's, I guess that's the name of it's West Wing, called the West Wing, more than really. So.
And that's the door that dropped when we had the heat going.
That's
Yeah.
the door that drops. This houses most of our CTE programming. So we'll see our auto shop, our wood shop, our graphic design, culinary and arts are down this wing. We won't wander down there just because this is where they're kind of cleaning today. But we will head down to the basement, and there are actually lockers down here as well. So some students are starting their day in the basement and then may have to go all the way up and around.
You said culinary arts.
Yeah, this is
shop.
really
The auto shop, our wood shop, it's the construction classroom now.
It's freshmen who are typically down here with the lockers, right?
Kurt, which class is primarily down here? Freshmen?
Yeah, I call this a dungeon. Yeah, this is a real choke point just for flow of traffic, because you've got 6 classrooms down here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 classrooms down here. So you could potentially have, say 150 students all going up the stairs, and then another 150 coming down. Mm-hmm. So it just gets really, we dismiss this like a minute or two early down here. And these rooms right here, I'm not even going to try to get the right key to open them.
Can we get degrees?
These are, I'll talk and try at the same time. These are they're really, really small rooms. And again, I don't know what the intention was of putting them in, but they're too small to be like an actual classroom. And so we use them for like this one is our robotics lab, which works great for. That is our esports lab. So another, we started this year, so we use that in 401 and 404. So again, combined together, you could have it as a classroom, but that's why we're limited and capped to 42, 43 teachers. Even though we've got probably 5 rooms that are open, you can't put an actual classroom in them.
So Greeley's room is actually a repurposed classroom. It was our welding room before the welding class went up to CGCC. Ideally, we would love to have all of our CTE programming on site. And it's just an interesting, they've done renovations this year, added a new floor, but there is still is it a separate HVAC unit in there, or boiler?
There was, but now it's got a mini split. So it's just like the band room.
And it's also a very interesting layout because it connects to this room and that room and the outdoor. So in the case of a lockdown or a lockdown drill, Greeley has 5 doors that he has to secure just in his one room. So it's very interesting, kind of like how these different classrooms were not necessarily made with safety and security in mind. Just having 5 doors, that's a lot for one classroom.
Yeah.
I know I have 505 in Jim's key.
Okay,
I know I have that one,
so
but
let's
just
go
every
out
other key
down here. We're going to take you out this way, which is not a typical route for students, but it is the route that a student would have to take if they were in a wheelchair or even crutches to be able to not navigate
Like,
stairs.
what kind of architect?
Go this way because again, if you were had some sort of ADA issue,
staff
you walk
parking,
up
and
the stairs.
then the mechanics get.
How many neighbors complain though about kids parking on the street around the school?
Every year we, and we, the kids walk and they'll colors trash, so we just garbage cans out.
Yeah.
And we do extra patrols. We try to be good neighbors. So. We did have a neighbor, Paul, and she's going to come in with some volunteers and clear out that ivy. So we have a lot of people that do like to help out, not just complain. So yeah. And this is Amaton Spring. I don't know if you guys know much about that, but that puts out about 30 gallons a minute. It's a spring that comes out of the hillside. And that's, for thousands of years, probably people have indigenous people have like gardened here, have lived here because of that water source. So it's really kind of a historic water source.
We actually did have to just do some work to it because it
Yeah.
was actually producing so much water it was flooding.
So if we don't pump it out of there, it floods the field. So we have to pump the water out, and it just goes into the draining system. And there's drinking fountains downtown, and that water was originally piped into those drinking fountains. They just ran constantly. So that's what actually fed those drinking fountains historically. So.
Is that the boat fountain probably?
What's that?
The boat fountain, the one that's up at Cirrhosis now?
I don't know. Yeah.
That
Well,
was.
it just was all gravity fed, I think.
Yeah.
So somebody just told me that a couple years ago. So.
This is the outdoor access to the band room.
And the bathroom.
But even from an ADA standpoint, so thinking of traveling and from that downstairs basement classroom to say the gym, while they can get there, a lot of it is like this kind of uneven concrete, lots of different levels. There's so many different steps and levels to the campus as a whole. It's just difficult to navigate.
He's fun like drop
Oh,
off
yeah.
stuff. Yeah.
Yep.
It's like
Go
going
ahead.
down the hill, corner.
And then this is a pass through for traffic, so sometimes there are vehicles. I will say not a lot of people pull into this area, but
So about $3 million was put into this building, and all this building is right here. So you walk in here, and you think $3 million, you're like, wow, that's a lot of money. And you find $3 million of work, that was done. And you really, it sounds like a lot, but it actually doesn't go that far. But the biggest thing, what we did, we got a seismic grant that the district got, and it was $2.5 million maybe-ish, something like that, $2.25 million. And what they did is they made this building pretty much earthquake-proof, and the building is just from this wall to the foyer over there. And went in, replaced rafters, put a new roof on it. The district added the HVAC system. And so we now, this is, what did you say this was built?
Kurt's Gymnasium was 1941, I
41,
believe it was
yeah.
completed.
So this is now, I love this gym, and it's a pit right here. They don't build gyms like this anymore. The kind of the Hoosier style gymnasium where you're down low Coliseum setting, and so people love to come here and play and compete. We did a tournament here for the Single A league that's around us, Dufur and South Wasco. So they came here, did their basketball tournament here, loved it. So this is really a gem for the community, and it's a great competition. But from a standpoint of teaching PE, it's not great. It's very small. In a modern PE gym, you would be able to move the bleachers back, go this way with it, all that kind of stuff.
Like you would see at the Dalles Middle School.
But anyway, so it was really a good investment, wise decision to go for that grant and put it into this building. So brand new windows all around, HVAC, what they call it, shear walls, and then, lots of concrete underneath to secure this building up.
We would continue to utilize this as a competition gym, even
Yeah.
if we were to pass a bond. So we would still utilize Kurt's Gymnasium.
Yeah, we can never have too many gym spaces, especially in the wintertime when we're practicing basketball teams, all of our teams. So
And because of the size of the package that was moving forward, we wouldn't necessarily get all the bells and whistles that we would have hoped for at, say, a higher bond package level. So we really kind of have to be picky and choosy here and there on what's absolutely needed athletic-wise to be able to focus the money on those. And because we did just put so much money into Kurt's Gymnasium, and because it's such a historic touch point for our community, we would continue to utilize this. Way back at the beginning of our tour, when we were in the library, I mentioned we don't have a lot of communal or gathering spaces, so we actually hold things like registration assistance and like career fairs in this gymnasium, which is great. It's a big space. However, it's also not ADA friendly, so there is no ramp down into the pit area. So if a student was in a wheelchair and needed to access the gymnasium floor, they would actually have to use a lift. We have a special lift that we had to bring out of storage just to be able to access this pit.
I have a key that says 505.
Okay.
Let's cross our
All
fingers.
right.
Do they still utilize the small gym up there when needed?
They do, yeah. We still utilize the small gym and the weight room over there. They do a lot of like smaller athletics classes, PEs, that kind of thing. We utilize every single space.
So our athletic director says he wants this someday for his office. You know, that, I can see that, you know, we had a new high school to teach health.
But it is warm.
Yeah,
So,
and out a window.
We got windows. Unfortunately, all they do is draw in heat.
Yeah.
It's a greenhouse.
Look into the
yeah, but I think these walls, I mean, it's behind, the flag is right there, but I was told at one point there were windows that overlooked the.
Probably where the bulletin boards are.
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool. Do a fundraiser, lease it out to families or something like a, you know,
Like box seats?
during the games and stuff like that. Go to the highest bidder, you know, I don't know, something like that goes to, everything goes to boosters. So rent Billy's office.
All right.
Great.
Yeah, there's definitely some really cool things. I mean, I'm definitely of that camp of, you know, appreciate the space in the building, but just from a standpoint of operation, it's you know, it's not working. But from a, you know, emotional standpoint, I do like the buildings and want to see them taken care of and repurposed somehow someday.
We're still short one.
Oh, we're in there.
All right, we'll pop back out.
And it's Kurt as in this guy. It's Ed Kurt's not Kurt as in Kurt apostrophe.
You were named after the gym. The gym wasn't named after you.
Yeah. But sometimes people do. They do think it's Kurt apostrophe S Jim, and I don't correct them. Yeah, it's Kurt.
It is right now.
Yeah, like okay, if you want to. So they send out like an advertisement for a wrestling tournament. Paul Beasley did. And you put, you know, Kurt apostrophe S. Yeah.
All right, so we have made our way all the way around back to kind of where we started. It is 2:38. We've managed to see all the spaces. So as you can tell, you're probably not getting anywhere in 5 minutes if you had a classroom in the basement to get up to, say, health up in that classroom. And Kurt, do all students take a class up in that room?
Yeah, all students take health. They have to have health 1 as a sophomore, which is half a credit, and then health 2 junior year.
So that would be another space that we would have to look at moving classroom-wise if we had a student that needed an accommodation. You can see we've utilized pretty much every single nook and cranny of this building, but like Kurt said, there's a lot of these dead spaces and kind of just open areas that are, while there's square footage there, they're not useful. And then pointing out the roof, the electrical issues with this building, just operationally from a standpoint, you can see where that would all add up. So if we were to address all the facilities, maintenance, operational issues, and programming, we would be close to $129 million to make all those upgrades on this campus, and it still wouldn't solve all of our issues. So these are the things that are really driving our need for the bond right now.
Can you repeat that list again? Operations.
I got lists for you, actually.
Okay,
Here we
great.
go. Look,
Thank
I got you guys all. Here we go.
Thank you.
So these are just some of the building condition deficiencies, programming and operational deficiencies, and then as well as an FAQ stapled to the back of some of the other questions that we have been getting so far.
Great.
Any other questions or things you think I missed or Kurt missed? You did most of the talking.
So the current population is right about 800. Is that
Yep.
right?
Yep.
And is there some ideas of building in for expansion in future plan? I mean, maybe you're not even there yet for construction.
I think, well, if you look historically at the population, you know, they talk about this, people bring that up, well, we might grow, and like, well, historically we've not. I mean, we've been at 800 forever. I mean, it just, we're fairly slow growth, flat growth
We're a
community.
small growth community.
You know,
However,
and,
we could do a lot better job at making some potential like programming or classroom spaces that we could grow into, that even if we didn't have a big boom in our student body, that we would still be able to better utilize a facility. We also have our Innovations Academy, which has between 100 and 150 students over there as well.
that's not all high school, right?
That's not all high school.
About
We
60,
do have,
I think, right?
yeah, we do have some 7th and 8th graders in that school as well. But if we were to absorb or have spaces that if we weren't to have that school anymore, which is not the plan, we can completely plan on continuing that program, what we would do with those students as well. And then bringing in classroom spaces, so like our welding back into our building, other CTE expansions. So when we talked about the different bond packages and levels with the community group that met that previous year, we had kind of a range from 120 million to 180 million. So 120 million was like the base. We were just getting the high school structure, kind of replacing this on a new campus that would address the needs that we needed. 180 would have been the whole meal deal. We would have gotten a bigger school with expanding spaces for additional classroom CTE spaces, that kind of thing, as well as additional athletic upgrades and the demolition of Watonka. Where we landed after polling and meeting with that community group was the board voted to move forward with $140 million package. That includes the new high school with some additional capacity. The capacity meaning not necessarily a student body count, but those additional spaces as far as CTEs, additional classrooms to have more like science or more XYZ programming in those spaces, more like cafeteria space, more like growth opportunities as a school as a whole rather than the student body population, if that makes sense. And then focusing in on some of the really key athletic needs over at that campus that we aren't able to provide elsewhere because we are so athletic challenged as a community as a whole.
Yeah, spread out.
Yeah, spread out.
Yeah, I did a survey. We're on average 1.5 miles further than everybody else that they have to travel for their athletic fields. You were saying something?
Oh, I was just saying it seems like the CTE, like the ability to be able to do that, seems to be the golden egg for most high schools these days because it keeps the kids in school and engaged.
And they're really
like,
incredible
like the automotive
programs.
Program. I mean,
Yeah.
that's
Well,
really
you
a
have
cool
to
thing.
you have to acknowledge demand, from your students at some point. I mean, we're not a profitable business here, but when I have 800 students and one year 720 requested culinary. I mean, you have to acknowledge mechanics, and they're just packed.
Yeah.
And so there's huge. When I started here, we had 3 programs. We have 6, and we just hired an athletic trainer who's going to start, kind of restart the 7th program, which is health occupations. We've not been, we've never been certified or fully articulated yet with health occupations, but that's our goal, to have that as a 7th. But if we added more CT programs to our program, we can't add them physically here though.
Right.
I mean, if we wanted to, we don't really have demand for agriculture, but we used to have ag here at the high school. We could never add an ag program here. I mean, out at the other campus, you could. You could create space close by, so, yeah. So anyway.
So are there some CTE programs that you're kind of like waiting? I mean, you obviously are going to do the health one, but are there
Yeah,
any
we're
others
almost at a saturation point though, because
Yeah.
you have too many, you just can't fill them with this number of students you have. So that'll be the last one that we add, and it'll only be probably two. The teacher, she's a full-time trainer. That's her main. She's kind of a noon to 8 p.m. employee, and so she'll teach 1 or 2 classes in the afternoon here, and then go to the training, athletic trainer portion of her job.
Do you ever get requests from potential folks who are looking to move to the Dalles and want to come take a tour of the facility?
Yeah, all the time. Yeah.
And what's that interaction been like? How do people react when they see what the facilities are here like?
Well, they just might at the end of the day, it's the teachers and the people in the facility that matter, and I don't know that for me, it's not that a new facility is going to so much raise some test score and get some, it's not going to be some quantifiable measure maybe that improves by building a new building. But it's what you're saying about everywhere I go, there isn't a place I go that has a facility like this. And I've been at this, 23 years now, and been all over the state and in other states and seen their facilities and their high schools, and you just never see anything in this disrepair. So it's a point of, for me, I've lived here for a long time. It's a point of pride, and it's what you say about the importance of your kids and your education, and what do you value in your community. And this community historically is, for lots of reasons, not the education system has not been they've not made decisions through an educational lens. Okay, they've made decisions maybe through an economic lens, through let's create jobs lens, but it's not been made through an education first type lens as other communities are.
And time and time again, it has shown that strong communities start with strong schools.
Yeah, if you just forget about everything else, you just put all into your school system, everything else will fall into place. Everything will just come, because no one will question that. Well, do we want to? Are the schools good or are they not good? So we have, when people do come and visit, and it's not a lot, but when they come and they want a tour, I've had physicians that have come and they're touring, considering moving here, and so I've brought them through the school, and typically we try to focus on the people, and the students, how they feel about being here, and the staff. And
it's hard. Those folks come in, and even then, how much time do we get with them? 15 minutes, maybe? We just took, over an hour, almost 2 hours to really get a kind of comprehensive view of the facility. So what they're really just seeing is a very, very high level view. Right. During our polling, one of the things I was most shocked about was the perception of our community, and how many people indicated that they felt that our school facilities were in excellent condition. And to me, that broke my heart, because that just shows how out of touch that some of these folks are, that they're just driving by, that they haven't seen what our students and our staff are living with every day.
Right.
And they haven't been out. I don't know what, I don't know anything about hospitals. I don't know how our hospital compares to other hospitals. So I'm not so I understand that people just simply don't, they don't know what goes on in schools if this isn't their world like it is mine. But yeah, they're just on so many levels, operational levels. It's just so subpar, and you're throwing these kids into a space that is, for a lot of our kids, this is where they eat. This is where they get away from dysfunctional situations, and so you want them to come into something that is
a safe haven, really.
A safe haven.
Even going back to talking about the smoke that we talked about earlier, and when to make those calls about closing school. In a lot of places, school can be a safer place to keep those kids, than sending them home to an environment where they don't know if they have, HVAC or clean air, that kind of thing. But here, we don't have the ability to make those kind of calls, because, it's no better here.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Well, unless there's any more questions.